Your business could be losing thousands, if not millions in bad debt because you don't have the proper credit policy, or if you do, you don't follow it. Look, I've seen time and time again how many businesses are extending credit. They find themselves, in an industry. It's usually started out as a small company, and they've gotten some customers, some contracts. They start inadvertently extending credit without their knowledge. They just go out there and get sales, get deals done, right? And before they know it, they've got, hundreds, if not thousands of customers, and they've never set up a credit policy. They've never set up a roadmap as to how they're going to extend credit safely. You wouldn't expect a mortgage company to go out there and just, throw around money and give everybody a house, or a finance company that was, selling cars or financing cars to just give everybody a loan. Like, here, you fog a mirror, okay, you get a loan, right? Many times that's how it works in a lot of businesses. And if that's your growth strategy and you've got the bad debt calculated in there, more power to you. You go for it. But my name is Sven Nelson. I'm with C2C Resources, also known as the guy that gets you paid, and I want to try to help you to avoid those types of issues in your business. We've helped tens of thousands of clients collect on their bad debt, but also consulted with these clients on what procedures they need to have within their business. First of all, you need to know who your ideal customer is that you're willing to extend credit to. Do they have a specific credit score? Is that credit extension going to be granted by revenue? Some companies do it by how much they buy from their competitors on a regular basis. So whatever that metric is that you're going to utilize to determine how you're going to, or how much credit you're going to extend to somebody, you need to have that in mind, and it needs to be written out in the policy. Then you need to know, how are we going to get the data that we're going to use to vet these particular customers? There's lots of data providers out there. There's Credit Safe, there's Experian Business, there's Dun & Bradstreet. I recommend that you have more than one data provider and not just utilize one. And the reason for this is, with consumer credit, everybody reports to the same three bureaus, right? And they share information back and forth. With business credit bureaus, not everybody reports to all the bureaus. There's a lot of different bureaus out there. I only named a few of them, right? So if you share your data with one and you don't share it with the other ones, they may or may not have that knowledge or that credit history on that particular customer. So it's good to have more than one data provider so that you're picking up data that your current data provider may not have, and you've got some good information to make those decisions on. So you need to know who you're extending credit to and how they're eligible for it. You need to know how you're going to vet them through that information. The other thing I'll tell you is Google is your friend, right? Google the business that you are going to extend credit to. A lot of people miss this step because it's so basic. But if you Google a business and you put the phrase lawsuit or judgment behind them, you're going to see if there's any public records in regards to a lawsuit or a judgment that was obtained due to bad debt. Not all the time, but sometimes that can help you, right? Also, it might help you to avoid some fraud. There's a lot of fraud out there that's happening these days. And just simply matching the domain to the actual website and the email might help you to avoid that. And you got to be real careful because these scammers are very slick and sly, right? They will change a character, and I've even seen them clone specific characters to make them look like other characters in email addresses. So you need to know who you're extending credit to, how they're going to be vetted, where you're going to get that information from. You're going to verify any information. A lot of people use trade references. I do think that you should use trade references. However, I wouldn't weight them very high in making your decision. And this is why. If I'm going to apply for credit somewhere and I want the best odds of getting credit approved, I'm going to give somebody a trade reference that I know is going to give me flying colors. My sister, my brother, my cousin, my neighbor. So, understand that people are not always going to give you the full picture. I've even seen it the opposite way. I've seen people put down a reference and not even, it's been a bad trade reference too. So that does happen. But so again, you're going to know who's eligible for credit, why they're eligible for that credit, the data that you're getting, where you're getting that data from, and you're going to verify the information. Now, you've extended credit. You've gotten them a credit line. Now, who's going to manage that credit? So in actuality, I tell my clients to, at the very minimum, re-vet these customers every 24 months because people's payment history changes, their financial situation changes, and if you're not looking at these clients that you've extended credit to on a 24-month cycle at the very minimum, and I would recommend 12 months if you can, then you're going to miss something. And that's where bankruptcies happen, right? There's a lot of red flags that happen, obviously, that can help you pick up on these bankruptcies. But if you're going out there, having these customers refill out a credit application, you're re-vetting their financials, and you're looking into things, then you're going to have better odds of catching a bad debt before it happens to you and you're not the one that gets caught holding the bag. So you're going to want to make sure that you know who's managing that credit within your organization, how you're going to manage it, how you're going to keep up with it. Now, you've extended them credit, you have the person that's managing the credit. How far out are you going to let them go before you consider it a problem account, right? So that can be a time-sensitive thing or it can be an event-sensitive thing, meaning that if it's time-sensitive, they can go out 30, 60, 90 days before I'm going to do something different and seek outside help. And what are those procedures that you're going to follow within that time frame? I'm going to tell you that I recommend to my clients that 5 to 7 days after the invoice goes out, you're going to make first contact. Why would I tell you to make first contact 5 to 7 days after the invoice goes out? Well, I'm going to tell you. So typically, when it comes to collections, we hear a lot of excuses. The excuse is we never get the invoice, we never got the invoice, or all of a sudden at 90 or 120 days, there's a dispute, right? So why I'm telling my clients to reach out at 5 to 7 days is because you're going to contact that customer and make sure, one, that they got your invoice, and number two, that the product or service that was delivered was exactly what they were looking for and there are no disputes for payment. And then you're going to notate that in your CRM. So you've just eliminated 90% of the excuses that we hear when we go to get people paid, right? So they've already got the invoice, we know there's no dispute. So that when they bring those excuses up at 90, 120 days, 180 days, and you're still fumbling around with it in-house, you're going to know it's not legitimate, right? You're going to know that it's an excuse. So if you do those things, you're going to be in a better position than 90% of the other people that are out there who come to us and don't know that information and haven't followed through. Listen, I think that credit policies and procedures are often had in a lot of businesses, but they fail to follow them because there's a sales executive or somebody in executive leadership who wants to take a chance and a gamble, and it's a calculated risk for that person. And that's where bad debt can be created. Or maybe there was a change in position and maybe the person that was there prior didn't have a credit policy, or they didn't understand, or didn't follow it, right? They had no follow through. So that's just what happens in the business world. But when you're talking about how you're going to follow up with these people, like I mentioned, you want to follow up with them 5 to 7 days, make sure they got the invoice, make sure that there's no disputes, you notate that. And then later on down the road, you're following up with them in 7 to 10 day intervals, either phone call, email, text, and spacing it out accordingly. I tell most people, look, you're going to exhaust most of your internal efforts within that 90-day period, because anything after that just becomes a duplication of what's already been done. Einstein's definition of insanity, to do the same thing over and over again and expect different results. So we don't want to get in this vicious cycle of hope. You look like a dog that's chasing its tail. Have you ever seen that? And the dog never actually never actually catches their tail. And that's what happens when you are hoping that this customer is going to pay you. They're hoping that you're going to forget about it and move on or not do anything further. And I'm hoping you're going to listen to my advice and do something different than what everybody else is out there doing. Because if you just continue the same things, you're not going to get anywhere. You're just going to get more frustrated. Meanwhile, your good paying customers aren't getting the attention they need, and you can't move on down the road, right? So again, you're going to utilize one of two reasons to turn somebody over to a third party, and that's going to either be a time sensitive or event sensitive issue. So let's talk about event sensitive issues. An event sensitive issue would be a reduction in order size. All of a sudden, this company that's been ordering the same order for the last 3-4 years cuts their order in half, or all of a sudden, here's another one, they make a huge order that's like 3 or 4 times their normal size without any real explanation. So if it's a reduction in order, they could be losing business. They could be taking their business elsewhere to another vendor or provider. And meanwhile, these are clients that haven't paid you for 90, 120 days. I'm not talking about somebody that's paying you regularly, right, and has these types of red flags. I'm talking about somebody that owes you a substantial amount of money. Maybe they're out 90, maybe days, maybe 120 days, maybe more, right? And all of a sudden there's a huge shift in their ordering pattern. That could mean they lost a contract or lost a huge client that's going to cost them. And they no longer need as much, and therefore they're already behind with you, so that's an issue, right? The other reason when I say they order a substantially large amount beforehand is I've seen companies right before they go for bankruptcy will make a huge substantial order, and it just slips through the cracks, and then all of a sudden, they're out even more money, right? Now, I mean, there could be an argument there for, some clawback there, but in reality, you're stuck if you gave them the goods. So when it comes to actually turning somebody over for collections, you need to know throughout your credit policy how you're going to determine that needs to happen. Is it event sensitive? Is it time sensitive? Another event sensitive trigger would be they're just completely avoiding you. They've broken several promises. The first promise they broke was when they didn't pay you in terms within the first 30 days, and people tend to forget about that. So the first time they broke a promise was when it was 30 days out. The second time they broke a promise was when they told you they were going to pay you in the following month, and they didn't. And then the third promise they broke was now they're out 90 days and they didn't follow through on the second promise, and they're not going to follow through again on their third promise. So these events are the things that you need to recognize sooner and be writing them down in your policy so that the folks that are within your organization have a written manual and they know, okay, this step is done, I'm moving to the next step, and this action is done, I'm moving to the next action, and I know what that action is. So it comes time to get a third party involved. How are you going to do that, right? Do you have somebody that you're working with? Are you going to go to an agency, or are you going to think about hiring a collection attorney or just a business attorney? You need to know the answer to that. So I'll tell you that not all collection agencies are created equal, and certainly not all business attorneys have collection experience. Most of them despise and hate doing collections unless they're a specific collection attorney. Even still, most of those guys are just going to write a letter, and they're going to come to you and say, we need a retainer so we can go to court, and you're going to be in the abyss of the justice system. You need to have all that stuff within your policy. You need to know which routes you're going to take. I hope that all of this was helpful for you. If you have any questions, concerns, or some comments, feel free to reach out. My name is Sven Nelson, also known as the guy that gets you paid, and I'm here for you if you need me. Thanks.